Follow along as we build a fitting tribute to the Land Rover Defender. This series is brought to you by LR Centre Limited and Frost Auto Restorers, as well as the help of SIP Industrial Products. And we're back. Episode 20 is landed. It's a long one. The Mark II prototype series dashboard is fitted. All holes for wiring, steering columns and air vents have been cut, and the whole thing has been painted to match the rest of the bulkhead. If there's enough interest in these, we may consider putting them into production, complete with pre-cut holes and fixings, to create your very own series-style Defender. Our dashboard has been causing a lot of interest online on YouTube and what have you. People have said A, they don't like the idea, or B, they don't think it's going to work, and I will admit it's an experiment. I've not seen anyone do this with a kind of more recent Defender. Perhaps that's for good reason, but I am now committed to making this work because of the deadline that we have. So as you can see, I've had the dash remanufactured. This is a Mark II design. The reason being the previous one had very sharp edges here and was welded along there, and I wasn't particularly happy with that. I thought, you know, in the event of an accident, if there was someone, a child, sat in the passenger seat and they went forward onto that edge, it would do some serious damage. So partly it was redesigned because of that. So these are now much more rounded and soft, and the quite a comfortable grab rail actually to get into the vehicle. Also, there's just less welds in this one. It's been folded by a local sheet metal worker and he's done an absolutely superb job. Really helped me out last minute, so I can't really thank him enough. Very appreciative of it, and I'm extremely happy with how it's come out. It looks exactly as I wanted. You'll see we've also fitted up our steering column. This is secured now completely to the bulkhead on both the engine bay side and the internal here, but there's still a bit of wobble in it. So I may end up making a kind of A-frame support, one that you'll see on older Land Rovers. They do have a bracket around here that I guess takes out some of the side-to-side movement of the column. So I might have to work something out for that. Put a Series 3 steering wheel on. This took me quite a while to find actually. The problem that I had was throughout the years Land Rover have switched between 36 and 48 spline steering columns, and finding a 48 spline Series 3 wheel, which is basically the look that I wanted at the price that I wanted to pay, took a while. So I found this one in Bradford, which is fairly local, and that was quite good. It's come off a Series 3 fire engine, I think, so it's been put to use in here. If you want to look for a reference to find out what spline your Land Rover's actually using, have a look on the Mud website, Mud UK. They have a really good reference there, so you can see if you've got 48 or 36. Some of the more recent Land Rovers still using 36 on XS and county spec models, whereas commercial hardtops generally are 48. I could have gone with a Series 1 wheel. That they tend to be 48 spline, but they're very expensive, they're very rare, and also they can often be in quite a poor state of condition because these arms here are all metal and chromed, and it's just difficult finding parts. The centre cap is Bakelite, which I don't think is even made anymore, so it's hard to find replacement parts for that. Whereas this, well, it's pretty sturdy. I'm not going to be able to damage that, and if I need to do in the future, I could sand it down, plastic primer and paint it. So that's why I've gone for a 3-spoke Series 3 wheel. It's very, very old-fashioned. In terms of the wiring, I need to put that in now, but I've run some rubber grommet, some rubber seal around the sharper edges of the dash where there's wiring to go through. Then it's just a case of putting that in. I'll hide it in air ducting that you would see for the heater vents and what have you. That should hide away the wiring from thieves, from just, people are looking, and it'll keep them out of sight. Won't kind of affect the look that I'm going for. I'm not sure about what I'm doing with the heater vents themselves. On the lightweight that I've been using as a reference and an inspiration for this dash, the heater vents actually come out, the ducting anyway, it comes out over the dashboard, which would be quite good because I don't really want to drill any more holes in here now. I just like to leave it in place if I can. And again, for the footwells, I'm either going to have no heating or have to work something else out. Not really sure. As I've said, this is an experiment. I've not really seen anyone try to do this on a later model Defender, so it will be an interesting project. But as I've said, I have to do it. I have to get this done and finished. In terms of the instrument cluster, which would normally be about here on a Defender, they're going to be moved into the centre, just like a Series Land Rover. I've got a Series 2A centre dash panel, and hopefully I'll be able to use that. I'm going to have to angle it so that I can see it from the driver's seat. Not sure by how much, because I'm just sort of doing everything to suit me really. When I get the seats and I can sit down, get the angle of that right, sort it all out in one go. The wiring loom itself will probably need to be extended, although I'm not sure, because it did run up to here, so I'm hoping that should translate to being able to go to there without putting any stress and strain on the wires and the plugs. If necessary, I have bought some 040 connectors, some 20-way and 16-way male and female headers. The reason for that was because I can use those to make my own extension for the wiring loom. If at all possible, I don't want to be chopping and splicing my wiring loom more than I need to do. So if I can just make an extension of say 10 inches, gives me a nice bit of slack to work with, and I'm not going to damage the wiring, not going to change it or alter it in any way. It's still standard, and if I ever wanted to, could go back to a proper dash, a genuine dash for this type of vehicle. So that's the plan. I don't think there's many other things to consider apart from the ignition barrel. I will probably move that to the centre as per an older vehicle. Indicator and wiper stalks, I might have to make like a leather cover for that, or a canvas cover for the electricals and stuff, just to hide those away. And other than that, it's fairly simple to do this.
The rear wiring also can be secured now. I chose to run the wiring along the top of the chassis rail so that in the future it can be easily accessed, modified and repaired if needed. The fuel pump plug is going in. This is a BMW part number supplied by A&P Tyco. I know this as I managed to crack the other end at the bulkhead side, and I had to open an account with the dealer to get a replacement. The rear body mounting rail we had galvanised and painted has been bolted down. Once the wiring has been secured using the original clips on the rear harness, the tub can be lowered into place and fixed down. The tub must then be bolted to the chassis. We've pushed the rear tub mounting rail as far back as it'll go. This is one advantage of having the later adjustable style rail. You have around an inch of movement in positioning the tub, which is really helpful. Now the tub's in place, I'll fit the Exmoor Trim hood stick set. The Exmoor design is very similar, if not exactly the same, as the original Land Rover hood sticks. The quality is good, fitting is simple, and I really can't fault the product and service from Exmoor. In fact, Exmoor really pushed the boat out to ensure that we got our seatbelt rail, which you'll see in an upcoming video, in time for the final build deadline, so I'd like to thank them and the very helpful Debbie from Exmoor Trim for their hard work. The sticks secure in the rearmost and foremost holes in the cappings on top of the tub. These clamps secure the sticks in an upright position, then two cross members run between those, with a final roof support added halfway between the two loops. On top of the windscreen we need to secure this header rail that clamps down the hood. There are two different profiles, one for a pre-2000 model year Defender and one for a post-2000 year, which is the Td5 and Td4 style. The hood has a rubber strip sewn into the leading edge, and that pushes into a slot on the profile in the rail, and it actually creates quite a watertight seal. There are two upper door channel components that must be fitted as well. This piece shapes the canvas at the front and also provides a lip for the door seal to seat on. Now that job's complete, I can fit the painted and cured vent panels using stainless steel hinge pins with tidy dome cap nuts. I also took the time to renew the foam sealing strip behind the vent flap. As the old registration plate lamp had begun to leak, I swapped it for an LED license plate lamp from Mud UK. These come complete with a neoprene gasket and stainless steel fixings, and once fitted, they are insanely bright. We had to add an extra hole to mount the lamp through the tub, and it's good practice to coat the newly exposed bare metal with lacquer, such as a stone chip stick like this. I've loosely fitted the bulkhead to chassis bracket. As our bulkhead has been galvanised, we discovered that there has been a slight shift in the vertical axis. The distortion is exaggerated at the point where the door meets the tub. The body lines are not aligning. The difference is small, but enough to require a ratchet strap around the bulkhead to mechanically remove the twist. You have to go past the point of the metal's memory, and it will creak and groan, but it has to be done. And then I left the strap overnight, and the doors now align perfectly. The seat box has cured, so I can drop that in. Once in place, the Landy is really starting to take shape. I dismantled the tailgate we purchased to have a few key components galvanised like the interior face. This has warped a little, but with a few rivets it returned to its original shape. Purchasing the original Land Rover vehicle control pedal gaskets is costly, so I picked up some 1.2mm neoprene rubber with a sticky face on one side to make up some gaskets. The total cost for all the gaskets we needed was £6.
When you've got something that resembles a squid poking through the other side of the bulkhead, then it's just a case of taking these connectors and reconnecting them to their counterpart, and it does look complicated, specifically the driver's side, but most plugs on the Land Rover are designed to only go in one place. It's very obvious where they run. For example, this plug here is to go in the ECU on one side of it, therefore I know this whole thing needs to run to the driver's side seat box, or toolbox as it used to be called. So I just need to get on, connect those, plug them in and secure them to the chassis.
The doors bolt into these caged nuts, and there are stainless steel kits available online if you so wish, although I'm not convinced as I have suffered with thread galling in the past. A flat bladed screwdriver is usually all that is needed to push these into position. This can be done with one person, but it's easy with two, one to hold the door and the other to tighten the hinge bolts. The doors are a different colour and texture, you may have noticed, as I quickly blew these over as I was running out of paint, and then unfortunately I've just run out of time to recoat them. It's a job that I'll have to do as soon as I get the opportunity to do so.
Part of the charm of old Land Rovers is when the weather's good, take your roof off, fold your windscreen down and take your door tops off. So in order to be able to do that on a Defender, we had to buy a kit from SP 4x4. They make all kinds of door parts and stuff remanufactured. This one in particular is a Series 2A and 3 door that is slightly modified to fit the Defender, so things like the barrel shape that runs down the entire vehicle is designed to match, and it actually is the same from a Series 3 to a Defender anyway, so that's good. Part of the kit we also got locks, anti-burst locks, which would have been fitted to Stage 1 V8. And all we need to do is just move over our alarm plunger from the previous setup we had with the push button doors, and also the checker strap, so that this doesn't open up all the way into the bulkhead, which it would do if left, because it goes past being at 90 degrees or perpendicular to the vehicle. It'll actually go forward and then rub onto this part of the bulkhead. There's been a lot of work to fit, but we've got them to shut quite nicely. Not me personally, I had a lot of help doing the alignment of the body because it is such a faff. So now you can kind of just shut them quite nice and gently. And there's a good solid clunk and the whole thing's in place, so we've done that on both sides now. Would I recommend these doors? Well, they are good, and I don't think there's any other manufacturers making new replacement doors like this, so you kind of have to go with SP 4x4. There's a bit more work involved in getting them to fit. We had issues up here with the gaps between the windscreen and the door itself, but that's partly due to us fitting the fold down hinges, and we've also gone for a gal capping instead of just a body coloured one, which adds extra thickness. So little stuff like that, believe it or not, made a difference. Even having foam tape under here made a difference to the height up here, so that had to be removed. And now, as you can see, our doors are fitted.
It's almost time to start adding our various fluids, like the steering fluid, which is just ATF, but the Td5 at least needs to have Dextron 2D grade ATF fluid. It's red in colour, and I bought a bulk pack of this for future servicing and any leaks that may develop. I purchased all new pipes for the power steering system, as it's an ideal time to replace parts with such good access, and I've made sure to fit stainless steel Jubilee clips where possible. Stay tuned for the next episode.